Ladies and gentlemen, we have Scott Ashworth here with us, and I'm talking about like from being a police officer all the way rising up through the ranks and then jumping into the sports entertainment world. He was out there with the Atlanta United, go Orlando City. Ha! I had to throw that in there. And now he's hanging out with Overtime Elite as the head of security down there in Atlanta.
Let me tell y'all out there a little story, man, and it goes a little something like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, it is yours truly once again, the corporate security translator and the author of So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security. I am super excited about this. I'm back on. It's been a couple of weeks since the book got released. This guy right here, right behind me. So I'm really excited. This is like one of the best guests that I could possibly ever have as I come back from the book coming around. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Scott Ashworth here with us, and I'm talking about like from being a police officer all the way rising up through the ranks and then jumping into the sports entertainment world. He was out there with the Atlanta United, go Orlando City. Ha! I had to throw that in there. And now he's hanging out with Overtime Elite as the head of security down there in Atlanta. And this is super, super huge. Scott, you know I had to throw that in there, man. What's up, brother? How are you?
What's up, my man? How are you, Carlos?
You know, listen, yeah, and I'm also checking that 50-52 on you there. 53? What is that? Was that 53?
53.
Yeah, 53. That's right. I had to go back in my Roman numerals real quick, man. But what a pleasure to have you, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. But just before we start, you pulled out the Go Orlando at SC, so I just figured I'd wear a little bit of jewelry to our meeting. If just to remind you, who holds the rivalry wins.
He brought it out, folks. He brought out the ring, man. Look at that. You know, hey, listen, I was gonna start singing just Orlando songs and stuff, but no, man, you beat me with that every single day, man. Look at you. That was good, brother. I was where my.
Talking about safety and security. It's hard to have safety and security in your house when your most expensive ring is more expensive than your wife's.
Yeah, that's right. She's probably going to be wearing that around the collar or something, man. Give her some gold. She'll attach that on. It's good, man. It's good jewelry. Nah, man, hey, congratulations to y'all out there, man. But your story is really cool because you went from kind of being a cop and growing up through the Atlanta department down there, or close to it, right? It wasn't Atlanta. It was
the Forest Park Police Department. So
that's right.
We border Atlanta at the airport.
That's right. And you got a chance to move all the way up, man, and do your things out there. And then all of a sudden you get into the sports entertainment world, man, and life has just been great for you, man. You're moving on, doing some amazing things. So a lot of the listeners, probably they're police officers right now. They're like, man, what the hell in the world do I do after I'm done with the police world? And there's no one better today, fellow listeners, than good old Scott to tell you a little bit about his story. So look, I'm not, you do you, man. Tell us a little bit about that and kick us off with a little bit of a storytelling time.
Yeah, so back in 2009 is actually when I started policing. So I signed up, really what I did is I went to business school, and about 3 years through business school, I realized that's not what I wanted to do. So I went through it kind of looked inside and tried to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life, my career and everything else. And when I was growing up as a kid, I wanted to be a police officer. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do that. In the first year, I loved it. Second year was even better than the first. And then when I started to gain rank, I became a sergeant. Then I ended my career as the lieutenant over investigations for the city of Forest Park. But even there, I still couldn't put my passions on hold. So, I'm a big lover of sports, and Atlanta sports, I'm a big lover of those too, whether it's good or bad. And sometimes the good has been more than bad. But or the bad has been more than good. I'm sorry, but we're still passionate about our sports, and so when I got the chance to do what I love to do and protect people and really look out for people, but at the same time do it in Atlanta sports, I'm telling you, it is exactly where I needed to be, and it was the perfect puzzle piece fit.
That's like a dream gig, man. Dream gig.
Yeah, no, I loved it. When I signed on to Atlanta United, I actually, I was actually pretty ignorant to the entire sport of soccer or football. And I'll tell you right now, since I left, I'm the biggest soccer and football fan there is.
Football, man, I like that. Look at you, man. But listen, but you had to get there. You had to get there, and your thoughts and ideas. You're like, okay, I've been a cop for a while, right? So when does it happen? When did it happen for you? Where you go, all right, look, I think my time in the cop world is like, okay, I'm over it. Let me look at something else. How did that happen?
It's when you start to, at least for me, it's when I started to get a family. When I started to get a family, I started to ask myself those questions. How can I financially support them? How can I, kind of veer away from danger? How can I do certain things that benefit people other than me? Because up to that point, it was mostly just, making sure I was taken care of. But when I got there, I started to look at the different pathways. So I had the pathway to continue growing in law enforcement, which would have given me a lot of it would have benefited me a lot. And then I had the chance to look outside into corporate security, and that would have benefited me a lot. So I started just asking everybody, asking experts in their field. I would go on LinkedIn. I would, contact people in bank security, contact people in event security. I would contact people in other security avenues, whether it be AML or fraud or whatever it may be. And I started to really fine tune what I wanted to do if I did leave law enforcement. So I knew when the opportunity came about to join a sports team in Atlanta that the sports avenue was the one to go to.
Man, see, so that's pretty good. So in the book, it's funny that you say that. In the book, Scott, on like the first chapter or something, I talk about taking kind of an account for yourself, figure out where you are, what you want to do, and then I talk about your family. Where's your family? What they want to do? Are they in line with you and everything that you want to do? In this change of careers, and then going in and looking at what kind of line of business in the security world or in the corporate world, for that matter, I really want to be in. And it sounds to me that you went thoroughly through it.
Yeah, no, so you really kind of have to hash out what's good for you and your family. My wife is incredibly supportive. She's one of those that doesn't care what I do as far as money or anything else. As long as I love what I do, she's happy. So I love her for that. My kids are so young right now that they don't understand anything about work life. My little kids just know that I bring soccer balls home or basketballs home, and that just makes their day. So they don't really realize too much about it. But, the sports world can be tough at times because the schedules can be arduous. And of course, as you know, from your time in sports, we work when everybody's off. Yep. So, you know what? I don't get to hang out with friends very much. So it's a tough pill to swallow, but when you're doing something you're passionate about and when you work around people who become your friends and you have a really good support network, then you are hanging out with your friends. You're just doing it in a professional capacity.
Absolutely, man. And I tell folks all the time, my friends were really the people that I worked with, to the point that every day after work, we were like, hey, let's go grab a beer together. And then like the whole crew would come out, and it was just very normal in the industry that kind of I grew up in and you worked in and everything else. So that's kind of cool. Let me ask you a question. When you were going through this and now you're like, okay, I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to roll out. I got to, go take care of this, that, and my family and everybody else, your thought behind that, what was the number one thing that you think got you that position, your first position out of law enforcement? What was the number one thing?
I think the number one thing is my ability to speak to a business plan. So my ability to use whatever skills that I acquired in law enforcement and articulate that and how it could fit into the business world, and doing that through quality interviews, I think was my biggest in. Because as I've been in the sports security world, when we interview a lot of police officers just assume that everybody understands what their skill set is going to do for their business. And a lot of people have a hard time putting those pieces together. So you have to be able to piece it together for them and then have those oh wow moments in interviews where those people realize, wow, you are an invaluable person to this organization.
Right, man. And it's so funny. I'm going to call it translating. You translate it into business. I think on your interview, say, as the corporate security translator, that just sounds like a good word to me. But it looks like you were able to kind of, by the way, and I'm guessing you put a lot of time into those interviews. You didn't just show up and you say, you don't know something, I'm a prior cop. I could do this. I'm guessing that you put a lot of time in understanding their business in order for you to go ahead and translate what you knew into the language that they would understand.
So yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I did when I was in law enforcement is I kind of convinced myself to have 3 or 4 interviews a year. And what does that mean? That doesn't mean just applying for any old job. That means apply for a job that you think you might enjoy, and then go into that interview process knowing that you're picking the company as well as them picking you. So you don't have to just take a new job because you interview. But what you're doing is you're building the quality of interviewee in you, and you're seeing the questions. I mean, tell me in high school and in college, how much better on a test you would have done if it was the 8th time that you've done it.
Oh, they listen, I would have won.
Yeah, so you're able to really craft and enhance your answers to people in the way that you articulate your quality and your work ethic and everything else. So it just practicing that skill set is invaluable to breaking into the business world.
Man, that is super interesting. You know why? Because I tell people all the time, it's always great to get a job when you don't need a job. And not that you're just interviewing just to interview, like you said. It was very focused. It was understanding. You knew that, look, if I didn't get the job, it was a great practice. So you went into it in a positive manner. You weren't, you didn't need it. And that's the cool thing about it. I tell people all the time, Scott, I said, look, there's nothing wrong with keeping fresh with what's going on in the interview processes today. And every once in a while, once or twice a year or so, like you said, just throw something out there and at least go through an interview process just to stay fresh. And I like your idea, man, and how you approach that.
Well, I think where a lot of guys in law enforcement get lost is that when we interview for jobs or we interview for rank and file inside the police departments, a lot of times police commanders are looking for somebody that can just fill a uniform, and they're not looking for the best of the best. But when you're coming out into the business world, they are absolutely trying to find the diamond in the rough. And we have to remember there's 900,000 cops across this country.
Oh, yeah.
Add on to that, how many are former police officers?
Oh, yeah.
We've got to differentiate ourselves, and you have to show why you are unique and different from every single other person that's interviewing.
Absolutely, man, especially in today's world. We know that there's a huge drop of law enforcement folks. And I understand it. What's going on in the country today is really, first of all, atrocious. And I'm sure you and I can go for a good time just on that. But there's a lot of law enforcement folks retiring, resigning, moving on, whatever you want to call it, from the law enforcement world. So now you're competing with all those folks. But I'll give you something else, I think, Scott, that a lot of folks are competing with, which is 2001, September 11th, right? A lot of folks joined the military. That's, 20 years ago or so. So a lot of even military folks now are retiring after 20 years. They did their 20 years. They're out as well. So we're competing with all ourselves, law enforcement, military. I put them in the same bucket, man, because I love them both. And so now you got to differentiate yourself like you did from what I'm seeing so far, man. LinkedIn, connecting with folks, understanding culture, understanding yourself and where you wanted to go, continue to interview in a positive manner. Dude, you're like the champion of this thing. You, my friend, should have written a book.
Well, don't put that in. I've got so much on my plate, getting a master's degree and everything else right now. My wife, if I put anything else on my plate, I'll definitely be eating at a hotel bar. So I'll be
delicious.
At the house.
Delicious food.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's absolutely one of those things where you always have to think of yourself as a brand. You have to market yourself. When you go and you interview for a place, they're going to research you, whether that's through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And if you have your first picture as a picture of you haphazardly in a uniform, then you're not going to stand out to them because you don't look businesslike. You look like a cop.
Yeah.
And businesses don't want to hire a cop. They want to hire somebody who's got a distinct skill set that can transform that skill set into an invaluable tool in their business.
Man, it's so interesting that you say that. Somebody asked me the other day, because I know you've seen this, folks with their pictures in their uniform or the old suit. If you come from the federal side of the house, you all know who I'm talking about. But in front of the American flag, right, standing there, like, again, in uniform. And I tell people all the time, hey, be more human. Be more yourself. Relax.
Cops don't smile, Carlos. Why don't cops smile in their pictures? Every time I do research on a cop that's just interviewed and I'm trying to sell them to a boss of mine or something that's in the business world, I show them a picture and the guy looks like he's an angry man and like, nope, or an angry woman, and nobody wants to hire that.
You know it's not cool, man, to smile. I got my uniform on. Are you crazy?
You got to be approachable in business because they're worried about customer service. And guess what's not customer service? A frown.
I agree. And we talked about this. I'm a huge customer service driven guy. I spent, 20 plus years now. Actually, it's 24 total years in hospitality, entertainment of some kind. So I'm with you. It's funny to me that I see those folks still till today, with their kind of that look, on LinkedIn. And you really got to be a brand. Like you were saying, you got to brand yourself in a certain way. You got to talk, you got to walk in a certain way. And I think that you did that. So let's continue on, man. I think you're kind of special because you always work hard at everything you do. You're probably one of the most intelligent guys I know, man, in the industry. And it seems like you're always a learner. Like you're learning very, very quick on everything that you do. But today, you're big time head of security, man, for an awesome company that's coming up, doing some really radical stuff with basketball, stuff I never heard of before. And it sounds really good. But in order to get there, man, what were some of the things while you were kind of in your first career after law enforcement that you think benefited you in getting kind of higher positions or being looked at from companies in higher positions?
I go back to working on, and I always work on this is, and I want everybody watching this, if you don't already know what the statement means, please look it up, but it's self-awareness. Self-awareness in business and in personal growth and professional growth is so important. It's one of those things where you're just constantly evaluating yourself. You're constantly saying, where are my weaknesses? Then how can I fix those weaknesses and then measure success? That's the main goal. So when I first started in business security outside of law enforcement, I just, one of the best things I could do is just shut up and listen to people that did it before me. Because if you come in, you can be confident, but you cannot be confident in something that you don't know. It's best to learn. It's best to figure out, find out, ask people, pull your network, use everybody you've got as, invaluable tools. They will teach you. And I was pretty privileged to come up underneath a really rock awesome, just great group over at AMBSE. With Joe Coomer, Tay Collier, Greg Overstreet, all those guys over there are just fantastic to learn from. And every single bit of what they taught me has come into pushing me forward in this industry and has prepared me for the next levels of what I'm doing now. And I can assure you what I'm doing now is going to prepare me for the next level.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So a couple of things. As you were saying that, I was thinking about it. Being self-awareness, it's so key. A lot of folks that come right out of law enforcement into the corporate world, it's hard for them to make that transition. But I think it's because, and this is going to sound really weird, but I have here a signed, autographed paperwork that says I'm allowed to say these kinds of things, being a prior cop myself. Then cops, we come in like we know it all. Yep. And we were the law. And, sometimes when we said it went, but what you said, self-awareness, man, and being open, being humble, being vulnerable. If you come in as a leader, being okay to share with people, oh man, I don't know that. Can you help me? Can you teach me? Like all those kinds of things, I think are extremely important to the growth, to learning, and to get your mindset, your mind right as you're coming in to the corporate world, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's always somebody that's done it before you.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing you have to remember is that there's, if you talk about books, there's always somebody that's done it and there's always somebody that's done it and then written it down. So you can always find these resources. You just have to be able to pull the right people to give you advice, find the right book, go research. Don't ever just think that you can just go in willy-nilly and then figure it out, because then you find out that you don't know. And then the business finds out that you don't know as well.
Well, and that's funny. And that's okay. I'm glad you said that, because when you don't know what happens, it's going to show. It's going to show that you don't know. And then because you didn't go around asking, hey, how do I make this better? Or how do I work on this? Because you never did it, people are going to be aware that, man, this person is not learning. And one more important thing is that our industry, though big, it is small. Like we know everybody. We know everybody. And as long as you're out there, you're trying your best, you're being, I'll go back a little bit to a lot of keywords that I use even in law enforcement. You're being honorable. You have integrity, right? And you're standing side by side with the team and trying to soccer now as a whole. You're trying to make the entire thing better, and you're not just one for oneself and oneself only. I think you can succeed because we all talk. Yeah. It's as easy as going on LinkedIn, doing a quick background check. For me, because of my position, I've realized, Scott, it's easy for me to go, hey, how you doing? You got a couple seconds? I got a question for you. And a lot of people will take a phone call from me, so it's not it's not that hard. So you have to be the best kind of employee / team member / human being that you could possibly be, even after you get into the corporate world.
Yeah. I mean, you always have to welcome, everybody's expertise. I know I reached out to you not too long ago because there was an aspect of what you did in a prior career or a prior job that I could have just absolutely milked, and I could have taken that information and applied it to a new situation here. So it's those kind of networks. It's that kind of wisdom. You really just have to find those people and just be okay asking. Everybody I know on, at least through our networks on LinkedIn, are willing to help you. Yeah. Are willing to help people find jobs, and they're willing to give you really honest feedback on what you can do better to get in those doors. So
yeah, absolutely, man. But now you're kind of in, bro. You have a good groove. You have a good groove going on. You're in. But I'm sure there was a time that you didn't have a good groove. And we talked about reaching out to folks, asking questions. Were there some things that when you stepped over, man, to the corporate side, you were like, oh man, I did not think about this. This is, well. Any of those you could share?
I can. So in law enforcement, we deal in black and white. We deal with the law. You either broke the law or you didn't. You either broke the policy or you didn't. You either violated the city ordinance or you didn't. Here in the business world, there is no black and white. It is all gray. It is, sometimes it's bottom line. Sometimes it's, sometimes it's customer service. Sometimes it's a firm, you got to go. But you have to be able to weigh those options, de-escalate. You have to be able to go from 0 to 100, then back down to 50 in 3 seconds. You have to continuously think of business continuity and not just protection. You got to think about the brand as much as you think about the people. It's a lot of this stuff I didn't know coming in, and you really have to learn really quickly because the business is going to keep going. It's a slow moving train. Whether you're on it or not, it's going to roll. So you've got to, roll with the punches and basically learn how to navigate that gray area.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting because I'm going to tap into something that police officers, they already have it, but they just don't tap into it. And it's the ability, as my mom used to say, man, dance with the music that is being played. Like you show up to a call or a situation or something like that, it can go from 0 to 100 and then back down and then, everything else. You could go into a situation where everything is fine. All of a sudden, whoo, man, it's, it goes to a different level. So police officers as a whole have that in them, and years of that being able to go up and down. So we got to tap on, when you get into the corporate world, I believe you have to tap on to those things. I think a lot of police officers, a lot of them, like majority of them, have great leadership skills. If you have an awesome squad, and you've been leading for a very long time and the team works great and everybody moves together, rolls together, understand policy. Everybody's having beers together after work, man. That's leadership. And you could bring a lot of those leadership skills to kind of your side of the world, which I think works out great as well. And it seems like you've been able to do that and you're continuing on, and I'm sure your team is going to be growing and you got a lot of stuff, because this is kind of like a new thing, right?
This company, I'll tell you, the first 3 weeks that I've been here, I've never been this impressed with the high quality of people that I'm working around, the amount of just expertise that's around me in their different fields. This company has no other option but to grow because of the fact that it's almost like if you put 10 rocket scientists in a room, there's probably going to be a rocket built. Yeah. So this is an inevitable success because I've seen the high quality of the people that I'm working around, and it's just a magical situation. And the idea is really, really just a groundbreaking idea. It doesn't take away from the NCAA. It doesn't take away from anything else. It's just another option in a world of two options.
Yeah, and for a lot of people that don't know what you're talking about, so overtime elite, which I thought was a really cool concept. You're getting kids once they graduate high school and stuff like that. They're coming in and right away they're getting the education. They're being trained at the same time, and they're preparing themselves for their next career into the NBA, all in one. Which for you, it's going to be interesting because you're like dealing with early VIPs, young. I'm going to call them young VIPs, and those are really you've been in the field, man, for a while. The young VIPs that you worked with, they're like the weird ones to deal. Like the old timers, you're like, you know exactly what they're going to do, how they're going to move, where they're going to go, So, but you got young folks, you got office spaces you're going to be worrying about. You're going to worry about movements of these VIPs. You're going to worry about housing. You're going to worry about, man, the excitement of doing all of those, man. You must be giddy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely an innovative space. I mean, I've reached out to people, across the Atlantic, my friends at Tottenham and everything else, trying to get an idea of, because they've been doing this for hundreds of years.
Right.
I mean, Lionel Messi, I think probably started when he was like 14 in Argentina. So
he was, man. And I was kind of sad because he almost went to play for Italy, which I wish he would have, because being Brazilian, I'm just not a fan of Argentina. But, but you're right. They've been doing that for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Well, and they've got so much expertise to share, and it's going to be such an innovative thing here in America that it's just so exciting to be a part of. That there's so many things that need to be created and so many things that need to be perfected. And it's just one of those things where you don't want to mess this up because of the futures that are involved. I mean, these are really talented, really bright kids that are coming into this program, and you want to make sure that they leave this program even more talented and even brighter.
Oh man, and you get involved with something like that. I think you kind of hit the jackpot, man, of everything, encompassing everything that you've done in your career so far. The kind of man that you are, the kind of person that you are to work with, and being creative when times are needed to be creative. Because I remember when we had to be creative at times in those fields, but being out there, man, with the integrity and the honesty and being vulnerable and all those other things that I think that you carry that with you. And it's just going to do you really, really well, man, coming up in the future here, man. I'm super excited for you.
Well, thank you, Carlos. I appreciate it, man.
Well, hey, listen. But look, we got a couple of minutes left. And I usually like to leave parting words for our fellow men and women out there in law enforcement that are trying to get into the corporate world. What are some things that you can leave them with, man, so we can close this out?
I think the best thing to leave anybody in law enforcement is they have to know their confidence, and their confidence, you have to remember what you've done. I mean, you've done things that a lot of people can't do. You've contemplated legal aspects of a person's freedom and non-freedom that would take, you 5 minutes, but would take a lawyer 5.5 months. You've done things medically that, you've had to react to chaos and help people put on, triage bandages or tourniquets. You have to know that you've done some absolutely amazing things. The most important thing is that you have to learn how to speak the language of corporate security. You've got to be able to tell them exactly what you've done and correlate that to their business, because every single bit of what you've done is invaluable. It's almost like reading a book in a language that you don't speak. It's got great information, but you just don't understand it. You're not going to get it. So you have to be able to rewrite the language of your book so that it can be understood by the readers in the corporate world, because you absolutely have the skills, you have the knowledge, you have the ability to react in chaotic situations. How many people in this world can say that they've tested that? And I mean, that goes for military, that goes for police, that goes for EMTs and firefighters, anybody across those spectrums. You really have a tool that almost a lot of people don't have. And so you really need to bring that out and learn how to translate that into corporate security, which is why, I love your book, Carlos, because that is exactly what you're doing. Is you're not only the translator, but you're teaching people also how to be their own translator, which is fantastic.
Man, you're gonna make me blush, and nobody can. The audio folks won't be able to see it, but you can always check it out on YouTube. You're making me blush, man, making me blush. But listen, Scotty, thank you again for your time. This is really awesome. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. Anything absolutely I can help you with, just let me know, and I'll be there. But thank you for your time and giving back to the law enforcement community.
Well, no worries. Let's just do a last-minute fist bump.
Oh, look at that! Oh, wait, I gotta go up here. Oh, there you go. I gotta go up there, man. That's a beauty, man. That's a beauty. So listen, everybody, that was Scott Ashworth hanging out with us. Look, I took a bunch of notes here. We got LinkedIn, ask questions, ability to speak the business language, translate, get ready for interviews, and have a tremendous amount of self-awareness. And those are all keys that Scott shared with us here today. Big time, Scott, man. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for checking in with us. Again, it's the corporate security translator and the author of this little guy right here. So you want to get into corporate security. We'll catch you next time. We'll see ya. Bye-bye.